So do I think what I saw recently is an impactful update? Maybe when it comes to Zebec. Well, I like to lean towards yes. The reason why is because Solana, again, I'm talking about Solana here, recently announced how Solana, again, finally flipped Ethereum in total real-world asset holders for the first time, which I find very impressive. Now, nothing I say is financial advice, but how does this even relate to something like Zebec? Now, if we think about it, right, what is one of Zebec's main focuses? That is RWAs, or should I say real-world assets. But here's the thing, how does that even tie into Solana? Zebec has an aspect of Solana, not to mention Solana Ventures is a alleged backer when it comes to Zebec. So here's the thing. If let's say Solana for the first time ever, allegedly, flipped Ethereum in total RWA holders for the first time ever, that I think right there could have impactful, implications, right? For something like Zebec moving forward. Because imagine if Solana was viewed as kind of the top tier, maybe in a make-believe scenario. Again, top tier destination for RWAs and stuff like that. Guess who's going to be kind of focused on? Naturally, maybe something like Zebec, right? Because again, one of Zebec's main focuses is literally RWAs. Now, what are RWAs, by the way? Again, they're real-world assets, right? But if I take a look at RWA tokens, just to give an example, RWA tokens, they're digital representations of physical assets on the blockchain, in which case has use cases for aspects like, or should I say for fields of real estate or like, art or something like that. There's a lot of possibilities, right? But I'm just saying, it's just an example. So if I take a look at something like Zebec, I think it's pretty cool that, again, one of its main focuses is RWAs, and allegedly something like Solana recently flipped Ethereum in total RWA holders for the first time, at least allegedly, they made this post. So I do find this to be pretty interesting because, again, even Solana is acknowledging this, and of course, naturally, Zebec is, I think, one of the most popular. I would arguably say this, at least in terms of the ones that actually have utility, but then have an aspect of Solana. Why? Not too long ago, right, before ZBCN had that pullback and stuff like that, ZBCN was considered top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana. And Solana naturally isn't even a project where it is really known for utility-driven projects, right? People know it more so for memes. So utility when it comes to Solana, in terms of like, the utility-driven projects, it hasn't really become a big narrative yet. So what happens if it does? What happens if the script were to change? If let's say there was a hypothetical altcoin season, if let's say people started focusing more on the utility-driven projects that have an aspect of Solana instead of the memes. Now they're probably going to still care about that, but what happens if it starts shifting a little bit, the script, right? Guess who's waiting right there? Guess who's waiting in the wings? That's something like ZBCN. It was there quite essentially during the whole time when, things didn't really do much, at least as of late, right? Like for instance, ever since the pullback that we've seen for a lot of projects in 2025 up until right now and maybe even beyond, ZBCN is just waiting right there for the moment if it were to maybe even come. That's the thing. So that's why 10 cents, it's still on my mind when it comes to ZBCN. I get it. It's a little bit hard to kind of think about as of right now because we are around 47.5 times lower than that. However, at least at the same time, it's not like it's so outlandish maybe if there was a hypothetical altcoin season. I mean, it's around a 9.8 billion market cap. So ridiculous for a project that basically is kind of popular within, that utility-driven projects that have an aspect of Solana realm, right? It's one of the most popular within that. Not to mention, has backers like Circle, the creator of USDC, on top of, again, also Solana Ventures. Not to mention, ZBCN has around 90,000 holders. So it's not a small project by any means. It may have a market cap that is well below 300 million, but we're not talking about such a small project here. Also on top of that, pretty much being the number 4 most popular project within the space of global trade and finance, in my opinion, as of right now, behind XDC. Of course, it's also naturally behind Ripple and Stellar, but I'm just saying, if it's arguably the 4th most popular within its own niche, and I consider all of the other factors I mentioned before, is around a 9.8 billion market cap so ridiculous? I don't know if I think about it that way. I mean, that market cap is around 4 times lower than a market cap in which Shiba Inu once reached back in 2021. So we're not talking about revolutionary, groundbreaking figures that we've never seen before. No, I mean, we've seen memes far exceed that. Take a look at Dogecoin, right? Take a look at Shiba Inu. And they even exceeded that back in 2021. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like a 9.8 billion market cap is something so ridiculous, but even at the same time as well, the way you take a look at it is if ZBCN just went to like 5 cents or whatever, I mean, still, that seems pretty hypothetically impressive to me, but we'll wait and see. This is just my mindset as of right now. I mean, I don't think Zebec is ever going to become the most popular project out there, and the reason why is because if I take a look at it just within its own niche, right? Because someone asked me this the other day, and my kind of response is, again, literally number one within this space as of right now when it comes to global trade and finance, or at least projects that are focused on that. Ripple is number one, right? Stellar is number two. I don't think I have any logical reasoning to ever think that Zebec could ever overtake that, right? Like how? Even if Zebec randomly became the most revolutionary out there, this space as of right now doesn't necessarily always value the most revolutionary project of all time. Sometimes it more so values like the amount of holders, the attention, all this, the historical vibes of a project. Sometimes that matters a lot. And if someone says, oh, that's not true, well, arguably, I like to beg to differ in some cases because let's think about Luna Classic. Still within a top 150, project, right? Within this space in terms of market cap, we've seen the nonsense that happened to Luna Classic, historically speaking, right? Not to mention, we know about how the use case basically doesn't seem to be the greatest as of right now either. And yet it's top 150. So within this space, historical presence, the amount of holders and all this attention, that still matters a lot. So Zebec, even if it has the best fundamentals out there, just due to what the market really kind of favors within this space, it doesn't always necessarily favor the most best project of all time fundamentally. So again, I don't think Zebec realistically could ever overtake something like Ripple and Stellar, but it doesn't need to, in my opinion, right? I mean, again, ZBCN going to 10 cents, we're around 47.5 times lower than that. Like again, Zebec doesn't need to overtake Stellar or Ripple in order for me to have a going to Sizzler moment, so to speak, when it comes to something like Zebec, right? I mean, it doesn't need to become the best. Does every quarterback out there need to be the next Tom Brady? The answer is probably not, in my opinion. That's pretty intense. That's a very intense achievement to achieve, basically. It's not really possible for, every single quarterback to do that. But do they have to? Not really. I mean, Baker Mayfield is still doing pretty okay, and he's never ever even won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? This is just the way you take a look at it. And yeah, again, sometimes a project doesn't need to become the best. As long as it can, become somewhat a little bit relevant, I think maybe sometimes that's already enough. I mean, if Zebec could just maintain its current positioning, like in terms of being a top 4 project within the space of global trade and finance within this specific space, right? If it could just maintain that heading into a hypothetical altcoin season, I'm going to Sizzler. That's the way you take a look at it. So yeah, I'm not going to be complaining as of right now, but I just thought recently what I saw was a pretty cool thing. So I wanted to talk about it, and I think it's actually pretty impactful, right? If I see Solana flipping Ethereum in total RWA holders for the first time ever, I think it would only naturally have maybe an impact for a project that has an aspect of Solana, much like Zebec, yet Zebec is focused on RWAs. So I think, again, kind of makes sense a little bit in terms of the correlation there. So yeah, that's why I thought it was pretty impactful news. However, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and I'll be sure to make more updated videos when it comes to Zebec, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you for watching. It's Billy the Captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.